Madam Speaker, this is a government of mass confusion, and I will stick with him. That is becoming more and more unstable by the day. And this confusion and instability are presided over by a Prime Minister who couldn't even get the deficit straight. Another veteran minister publicly rebuked the decision of the government, and nothing happened. All of this weakens the Prime Minister's dwindling authority. The Deputy Prime Minister is the one announcing projects all over the country. And I ask the question, should the PM be concerned? The Prime Minister and his tourism minister seems to be at odds. And a story in the Nassau Guardian, Madam Speaker, I have support documents to support whatever I say, and I will table it then. A story in Nassau Guardian a few weeks ago reported, quote, in a statement on Sunday night, Davis said the RCI deal remains under review pending the outcome of the environmental impact assessment. The Prime Minister referred to the project as a draft deal. However, when the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation announced the deal on March the 7th, he said the government approved the project. He added that final approval is subject to an environmental impact and an environmental management study. The next day, Davis said he expected ground to be broken on the project almost immediately.
First and foremost, I don't see the relevance, and the member has not assured us of the relevance of what he is debating. But could this member be talking Oban? Could he really be talking about confusion about the Oban deal? He, as former Prime Minister, he wishes to talk about something. Why don't you discuss Oban and tell us whatever happened and tell us what the documents are to this point? We haven't found the documents yet. But you signed those documents that weren't, and nobody knows who the people are. But you signed it. And you have the nerve to talk about us continuing discussion with investors? Please tell us about the Oban deal if you wish to talk about confusion.
The day after the Minister of Education reiterated her position, the Deputy Prime Minister said, "My only comment is that the Cabinet approved the RCI project." Yet, the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture on the 22nd of March stated, Cabinet has not approved RCI project. The Cabinet, Madam Speaker, is in utter disarray and confusion. So within a matter of weeks, the Minister of Finance didn't know the deficit numbers and blamed his mistake on someone else. 2 bills were pulled at the last minute. There's open dissension on a cabinet matter, and now there's confusion about the state of a proposed investment. Madam Speaker, just imagine, if there is confusion or indecisiveness about a project on a small key, 3 different ministers having different opinions, can you imagine the type of confusion that this government would undergo when dealing with an entire nation as opposed to a key? Madam Speaker, at the heart of this array, confusion, weekly mistakes, and mass disorganization is a Prime Minister who seems himself out of his depth. However, the PLP is good at one thing, getting PLP straight. Madam Speaker, we are here today to deal with another self-inflicted wound. Now that explains it to you. Another self-inflicted wound and major mistake the PLP presided over by the disorganized Minister of Finance. Opposition statements by my colleagues, the leader of the opposition and the member for East Grand Bahama, outlined how the PLP made use of 232 million in IMF special drawing rights held by the central bank. The opposition pointed out that the administration's behavior was not supported by law. That is why we are here today, Madam Speaker, to pass this bill, to make it retroactive. This type of behavior by the New Day administration no longer surprises most Bahamians. The Central Bank Amendment Bill seeks to make provision for the insertion immediately after Section 17 of a new Section 17A to empower the minister to access, utilize, or convert special drawing rights allocated by the IMF for the purpose of reducing its foreign currency debt obligations and to manage its foreign currency debt operation. When made law, Section 2 of this amendment takes effect from December the 1st, 2022, retroactive. It is the responsibility of the Minister of Finance to ensure that proper rules and procedures are followed when it comes to oversight of the people's money. If the rules were not followed, if they were not followed properly, and now the administration has to pass a law to justify its behavior, the Minister of Finance bears the blame for what occurred. Yet again, we have an example of the Minister of Finance's inability to handle the job of finance. It was he himself, the Prime Minister, who sat in here and said the Ministry of Finance is a big ministry. It is a difficult job. You cannot just take the advice of certain senior officials. The Minister of Finance has to read the files and documents clearly. His failure to understand the BPL brief led to higher electricity costs for Bahamian families and businesses. He has to know the numbers and understand what they mean. When the Minister of Finance signs documents, does he know what he is signing? Does he understand the information before him? He has already had to apologize for presenting inaccurate information in the mid-year budget and then blamed others for his big mistake. Now we are passing a law to justify what this administration has already done. The Prime Minister does not have the capacity, it would appear, to manage such big ministry. And as long as he stays in this position, there will be more errors and embarrassment for this New Day administration. Is the Minister of Finance or the Prime Minister afraid of making the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Works, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Social Service, or even the member for Bain and Grantstown, making them Minister of Finance? Any of those four has the capacity, or those five, has the capacity to manage it. Madam Speaker, following the rules is important. From this bill, I didn't recognize, I didn't say you. From this bill, I didn't say you. I don't remember you were good at math at SAC. From this bill having to be passed, it is clear that this New Day administration did not follow the rules. There's another issue of cabinet convention that was in the press recently. The issue is not about opposition having a certain so-called authority or not on this matter. The authorities in this matter are cabinet rules and conventions. The Minister of Education publicly said she does not agree with the decision made by the Prime Minister and his administration granting approval for the Royal Caribbean deal on Paradise Island. The Minister of Education, Madam Speaker, is a nationalist to the core, and has a right to her opinion. She is a strong minister. Stick by your word. I respect that she has a different opinion. She has been consistent with what she said in the past while in opposition. It is the Prime Minister who is being blatantly inconsistent. I'm getting there. Our system of government is based on collective responsibility of the executive. When a member of the executive publicly speaks out so strongly against his or her administration policies, that member has an obligation to resign, and if not, the Prime Minister is compelled to ask that appointment to be revoked. The Prime Minister knows how our system works on this matter. He should know the rules. After all, he's been in this parliament a long time. Yet he came out defending our strong nationalistic Minister of Education's criticism of him and the decision his administration made on Paradise Island. Just like the rules were not followed when it came to the money used regarding central bank, the rules of our political system are not being followed here. The reason the Prime Minister is not acting is because he can't. He does not have the authority in his party that the past PLP leaders had. This display of weakness of authority will have implications for the functioning of this administration. If members of the governing party see that the Prime Minister does not have the capacity to discipline those on his side, everyone will start publicly voicing their opinions and disagreeing with their leaders' policies. When 3 members of my government voted against one of our budgets, I asked for their resignations because they had a fundamental disagreement with government policy. One of those gentlemen now sits in the PLP cabinet. One imagines that he now feels he has full license to disagree with certain cabinet decisions, like a certain project in Adelaide. Madam Speaker, like so many Bahamians, I am deeply concerned with the direction of this administration. As I noted at the beginning of my contribution, the PLP's parliamentary agenda is chaotic. Bills are brought for debate at the last minute. Some are pulled at the last minute. The Prime Minister's jet around conference to conference, not staying at his desk long enough. Taxes, fees, and costs of living keep rising. Crime remains out of control in New Providence. This is not what the Bahamian people expected when they elected this administration a year and a half ago. Madam Speaker, our citizens are concerned and frightened by the recent wave of gun crimes and murders in this country. Hence, will the Prime Minister and Minister of National Security inform the Bahamian people how many convicts have been issued firearms under this PLP administration? What types of firearms have these convicts been issued? And how many of these convicts who have been issued firearms have been previously convicted of crimes involving dangerous drugs or firearms? How many of these convicts who have been issued firearms have spent time in prison? And how many whistles has the Prime Minister given to our females to deter criminals? Madam Speaker, Prime Minister's statement, government should provide women with whistles to help deter crimes. How many females have gotten their whistles? Madam Speaker, I say,
women dying.
I say, Madam Speaker,
Abused. Yeah.
if these questions are not answered in a timely manner, then I may be forced to release information in my possession. Madam Speaker, government should lead by example. And when government do not follow laws, the payment populace likewise would do the same. And that contributes to the criminality that we see. Here today we are debating a bill because the government had not followed the law. And there are numerous examples, the procurement bill, road traffic, and I can go on and on. Madam Speaker, a Nassau Guardian editorial last Thursday, April 13, quoted the Minister of Tourism. Quote, "Downtown should be one of our proudest achievements, not a place we continue to make excuses for," said Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation, Chester Cooper, just over a year ago. The state of this historic thoroughfare is disgraceful and embarrassing. Downtown is, unfortunately, littered with too many derelict buildings that have become havens for vagrancy that is a constant complaint of Bahamians and our guests. I plan to work with the Ministry of Works, Police, the Office of the Attorney General, and the Office of the Prime Minister to tackle these issues head on. 1 year later, several buildings have indeed been knocked down, and there's more police presence, but the state of downtown, Madam Speaker, has grown worse, not better. I have often heard that buildings that are neither pleasing to the eye nor functioning to the city are protected as historical sites that may require laws to be amended. I am told that outdated building covenants that limit the height of structures are also impediment. I foreshadow that will require adjustment as well. But the editorial continued, "Last we checked, no adjustments had come." Cooper said, "Existing and new legislation would be used to make the necessary changes to have downtown restored, kept clean, and provide a unique experience for our visitors and Bahamians. We do not expect laws to be made overnight for a problem as long-standing as the issues occurring downtown to be solved rapidly, but a year is more than enough time to have made meaningful strides. Property owners downtown have been the beneficiaries of generous redevelopment incentives for many years. Those who had shipping interests were also the recipients of major investment by the people of the Bahamas in the Arawak Key Port. But the government continues the soft pedal on this issue, dallying and changing city ordinances and antiquities laws that would allow them to take action. Frankly, Cooper's portfolio is far too large to give downtown the focus it needs. And while the Davis administration was finding government jobs for all of its members of parliament, it should have had the foresight to have at least a parliamentary secretary with responsibility for downtown redevelopment. The property owners deserve no more soft peddling, and the government should take drastic action with regard to downtown. Madam Speaker, along with many other...
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Exuma and Ragged Island.
Assume the member for Kalani is accepting that as his own, and
I said I'll table it.
that he will
Yes,
lay it
I
on the
am.
record. But perhaps he should go further and say that in his short 4.5 years in office, what has he done with the article that he accepts? It indicated that this has been a long-standing problem. What has he done when he had a chance to do so? Now he sits and he pontificates as if he's running for leadership of the F&M or something, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honourable member.
Don't cause me to spill beans on you. We have a pack. Don't cause me to talk. Don't cause me to talk. We have a pack. No, men never talk on each other. Along with many other Bahamians, I am deeply disappointed that the construction of a new central bank headquarters will no longer be built on the site of the old Victoria Hotel. The central bank has the funds to construct a new headquarters. A national competition was held for a new, modern, and beautiful complex that would help to rejuvenate downtown. Parliament approved the transfer of Crown land to the central bank. Why was the decision made not to go ahead with this major project? Was this a cabinet decision? The cancellation of the new headquarters at that site, Madam Speaker, is very disturbing and begs many questions that need to be answered. As we noted in office, we were giving consideration to using the old central bank complex as a potential temporary museum space for the enjoyment of Bahamians and visitors. Madam Speaker, when you talk about wastage, do you know that this central bank project had started under the Christie administration and continued under the Minnis administration? Up to $12 million have been invested in the development of this new central bank at the Victoria Court. $12 million now just disappeared. Madam Speaker, it's the people's money. If it was their personal money, it would not have happened. But the people's money, $12 million, just disappeared. And currently, the central bank is about to commence construction, and don't stop it, to commence construction on the Frank Watson Boulevard or highway, where they will place their currency operation and IT unit. Don't stop it. The PLP, it is in Kalan. No. No, it's not. The PLP has also decided, you've already thrown away $12 million. Let me carry on, man. The PLP has also decided not to go ahead with the new multi-story complex at PMH, which is critical to improving health care. They promised a new hospital. Typical of the PLP, this is highly unlikely to happen. But I'm certain, and they have my support and blessing, that Grand Bahamas will commence and carry on. A new judicial complex was to be built on the site of the old main post office, which we demolished when we were in office. What has become of this? A new complex with necessary staff must be a part of a comprehensive response to crime. The new cruise port, which was approved during my administration, is set to open soon. It is the largest investment in downtown in our history. And we're doing a similar one in South Eleuthera. Don't try to claim it. Nothing to do with you. Thus far, this government has done nothing materially to help revitalize Bay Street. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister and the PLP are failing to confront our national crisis. They're also failing and behind on what they promised in their blueprint for change. In its election blueprint, the PLP promised to transform the tax system to make it more equitable and progressive, and to encourage national growth and prosperity, end quote. Instead of fulfilling this, they are adding on more and more taxes. Things are becoming less equitable and more regressive. The PLP promised to, quote, revamp and streamline processes at Bahamas Investment Authority, Registrar General, Department of Inland Revenue, and other agencies to become one of the most business-friendly countries for local and foreign investors. Well, It is even more difficult getting things done through inland revenue. And the only people seeing a more business-friendly environment are foreigners. The PLP also promised a rising tide program. In their blueprint, they promised to, quote, support partnership with wealth for the collective benefit of all. They said they would, in conjunction with the residency by investment program, encourage joint ventures with Bahamians on projects for sustained economic development through Bahamas Invest. We will create the framework to expedite projects under this initiative. The country sees little evidence of a rising tide of opportunity for the vast majority of Bahamians. There is a rising tide of money, a rising tide of travel, benefits, and luxury for certain PLPs. But the rising tide most Bahamians are experiencing is a rising tide of crime, a rising tide of bills, a rising tide of illegal immigrants, a rising tide of new taxes, and a rising tide of other problems. Bahamians, Madam Speaker, are drowning under the rising tide of problems caused or made much worse by a new day PLP that is mostly concerned about the personal rising tide of wealth, while most Bahamians are suffering from the PLP neglect, waste, and indifference. Madam Speaker, I brought a gift, because I want to help the Prime Minister. I brought a gift for the women in this Parliament. All the women. Madam Speaker, I'll start with you. The Prime Minister said in order to deter crime, he recommends government should provide women with whistle to blow to deter crime. Madam Speaker, I have everybody's whistle to ensure that every female adheres to what the Prime Minister wants to do. Madam Speaker, a whistle for you, a whistle for Seabreeze, a whistle for all the other members. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank